Welcome, everyone, to the Contact Center Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. We've got a super interesting guest today here with Anne-Sophie Engert. And Anne, you are the head of customer care and conversion at Sonova Marketing. You have worked with companies that have grown from, I think you were the third employee at HelloFresh, and now they are absolutely huge. You're going to talk to us today about how you get your board to invest in the contact center, how you get them to see the contact center as an ROI center, as a way to grow the business significantly. But before we do that, I'll let you maybe expand a little bit more on your background.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having me on. I'm absolutely delighted to take some time and talk with you about my personal experiences with customer service entity, which, as you mentioned it in my background in the past, I built up those entities for several companies. So my focus has always been on the customer experience, customer relation, and service strategy. My journey goes back from building up the customer service entity in HelloFresh, and I've worked over 10 years for a company called Textile that is famous for its brand Just Fab, the athletic wear brand from Kate Hudson Fabletics, and the joint venture with Rihanna, Savage X Fenty. Then after that, I've experienced insights on customer care within a bank. And now I'm at Sonova Marketing, again, leading the customer care and conversion team here. And as you said it, while the customer care or customer service entities are usually an entity that create costs and do not generate any revenue, if not doing any upsell directly or direct sales, it is usually a huge challenge to argue for any investment made if you cannot measure any return of interest costs. So the question is, what metrics can you use if you talk about customer satisfaction and customer experience and happiness of a member? How can you measure those things? You have the CSAT, you have Net Promoter Score, you have customer satisfaction scores. But how can you put a price tag on the actual satisfaction and happiness of a customer or a member for that matter?
Great. What I'd love to do is I'd love to start out with your perspective on just why the contact center is so important, that it is a department that in most companies needs much more investment and should be thought about that as could we all make investments for a greater return? That's like the definition of we don't make an investment to make less money. To put $1 in to make $3 out. So why should boards be investing more in their contact centers?
I think customer service entities, if not doing any upsell or direct sales, are always departments that is just presenting costs. So cost entities that do not bring a direct return of investment that is measurable for a company, usually from my experience, a challenge to argue for any investments if it's not directly measurable. And if I say not measurable, of course, there are metrics in customer service departments, such as the customer satisfaction scores, the net promoter scores, customer satisfaction, the customer experience. I think there is also like KPI numbers such as repeat orders, average order values. There's something like refer a friend. So there is things you can measure, but I think the majority of metrics is something where it's hard to put a euro or dollar sign to, and then from there rectify investments being made and investing in these teams, in the training, in the tools, in this whole idea of how you want to do the strategy on communication. What is the target, the goal? How much people do you need? Do you want to have an in-house outsourcing teams? Do you want to do site visits? I think that all comes with an investment in this area. And from my past and previous experience, I think these departments usually lack of investment because it's not as clear, as measurable as a marketing department. This is the amount of spend I do in marketing and in advertisement, and this is the click rate and all these things where it's challenging to measure how much worth is a happy customer for you. So that usually is the challenge when you don't generate any profitable numbers in the company if, again, not doing sales or upsell.
So every organization should have a target of around 30 to 40% of new revenue this year coming from existing customers. And the contact center is the number one place where we talk to our customers. And they have questions, and we have opportunities to introduce new products or upsell opportunities. And so just thinking about the contact center as an area that has responsibility in sales, in revenue, these cross sells, these upsells, new revenue. Now, if we start talking about where are we sourcing new revenue, and 30, 40% coming from existing customers, right away, you're going to get a board, you're going to get the C-suite to say, okay, I understand. How do you track that? If sales is such an important part of this, how do you report up with these revenue numbers that are coming in? How do you attribute that to the contact center and the agents and what you're training them to do?
Very good point that you've mentioned. The department, the customer service department, is, as you say, it's the first row. It's the ear and the eye of company to the customer. So every feedback that you get is coming from your customer, regardless if it's on product or on processes that exists or on the service you provide. I think if you care about the brand perception, about the product that you're selling, you want to understand the needs of your customers, the demands, the complaints, the wishes, any area for improvement, you usually get from your customers if you decide to listen to those. So what I know from the past, that a majority of initiatives came from the department and from the agents directly. So to your point, the competition is out there. So if you're not having a very unique product, unique on the market, your customers usually have the choice to shop elsewhere. So we know all these huge e-com companies where people have the choice to shop their product somewhere else, but they decide to go there for the service. So usually if it's not the product and you can get the product somewhere else and the service and the support, then the question is, why do they attract to come back? As you said, why is there an increase of revenue, repeat orders? That's usually for the service, because people decide, and I don't know how many people that shop at this huge online e-com store, they say it's so easy. And whenever I have an issue, the service is so great that I'm happy to pay some more money, but to get the service in case something is wrong. And I think this is the sweet spot of standing out from the competition, having this approach of doing things different, because knowing the customer has an alternative, your only way to succeed is by having the talent, understanding your product, and offering the best service possible to your customers. So to your question of how you want to ensure that this department and entity is able to provide that, I think this comes with really having a focus on what kind of agents you want to have in your department to serve your customers. So from my background, usually it helps to have a certain relation to the product. So if you sell shoes and handbags, it might make sense to have a common understanding as the customer have that this is something you can never have enough of. Or if you sell athletic wear, it might make sense to have agents supporting customers with their queries or needs or whatever it is, if they understand that there is a different demand on a bra if you do yoga over going for a run. So I think to have a general interest in the product you sell or the service you offer is something that I would say is the first requirement. And then it depends really on what your audience is, where your customer is located. And this can be culturally different. It can be from the age. It can be from many different reasons. It makes sense to think about where you want to position on the market. If you want to have an in-house team, if you want to outsource, if there's something you want to bring artificial intelligence or bot service in. And I think those are the critical strategic decisions to pay attention to, because not all customers, not all audiences is open to have artificial support. It depends on the age group. Currently, our customers are 55 years and older. And with that comes a different way to approach and serve these customers. It's different channels. It's a different way of communication to address this. And while a customer that just wants to identify where the order is, the classical Wizmo, where is my order, and might be happy if a bot just provides the tracking number and the request is completed from there, the customer has all the information they need. It might not be the same if you have a charge on your bank account and you don't know where it's coming from, and you're really interested in talking to a person, to a human being that makes you understand and makes you help de-escalate and prevents you some argument on why certain things happened. And also, there is a specific in your business model. If you just provide service or just sell products, it's different than coming in with a membership model or a subscription. So, as we said in the beginning, my background is in companies that conquer the markets with a membership or subscription models. And for the European customers specifically, when we started this 15 years ago in HelloFresh, or then later in my experience at Textile with these brands, Just Fab, Fabletics, and Savage X Fenty by Rihanna, that was new to European customers. They knew subscription from their gym membership and from their newspaper, but beyond that, it was something new. So customer want to know what are the perks and benefits. What does that make unique for me? Do I have to come in and purchase as a repeated member where I'm maybe being charged, where there is more obligations? What is in for me? And I think here it's extra important to engage, to go the extra mile, to deliver above and beyond than what is expected. Because these customers, you want them to come back. If you shop at any e-com store and the product is nice, you may come back. But if it's a kind of membership or subscription where you ask the member to repeatedly come back, then you want them to feel special. Then you want them to feel there is a benefit for me. There is an advantage over those that are not members, that are not signing up for a subscription. Some early access, some special service, some premium service. Have them things delivered earlier, products that are special and exclusive. Provide them with a service. They feel it's worth being this repeat member. And I think coming in with that approach gives you way more opportunity in the training to really educate your agents on why it's important to engage, why it's this extra minute they might take. And I'm happy to deep dive on that a little bit more from my current role at Sonova, where, as I said, it's a different audience. And you can't say the conversion part is important as you want to talk to people and have high conversion rates at the end of the day as your KPI. But there's different ways to approach, and I'm happy to discuss this a little more.
There's so much that you said was so important. I want to go back just a few minutes because you basically laid out the argument that most companies have lots of competition. And in fact, most companies today have between 20 and 25 different competitors. And the most important differentiation isn't always your product. Now, if you have a Kardashian brand, obviously that's a very big point of difference. Most companies, though, are selling products and services that are available in a number of different places. And you said something that I want to dig a little bit deeper on is that it was that customer care, customer support, the customer experience in entirety is the differentiator of why they want to come back. If that is the point, and by the way, there are plenty of studies that back you up on this. If that is the point, then that's some of the most important communication to the board and to the C-suite, because you are now the competitive advantage that is going to provide sustainable growth for the company. It's not the products, not the service, not the price, but it's the customer care that you provide. Then that is the most important differentiator for your company. It is the most important then source of sustainable growth and revenue. That was your point overall, I think.
Just think of it yourself. If you read a review of some product and some random person you've never met is writing a review on some review platform or that underneath the product for some shops, as an example. How much likely are you to then purchase this product if you see random recommendations from someone else over a friend, a person that you trust coming to you and recommending something to you,
Mhm.
telling you, well, whatever article it is made a difference. It's so great. You have to try it. Guess how much more likely you are to actually purchase this, to actually try this over a strange recommendation. So having a loyal member, and this from the Net Promoter Score, there are these that stay in a neutral balance. And then you have, unfortunately, these detractors that go around and don't recommend your product. But you have these customers and these opportunities of those that are so happy or convinced about your product and so happy with the product and maybe ideally the service that if they refer it to a friend, this makes the whole difference on your willingness to purchase this product. And I think spending, as you said, the focus there and acknowledging that this is a customer that feels valued and recommends you to other people, refers you to a friend, is something you cannot make up with any marketing spend. So this is where I think it's important to address loyal customers and make sure they're happy, because the job that they're doing for you is unpayable in comparison to what marketing departments might
The
pay.
ROI that you could get from internal resources focused on customer care versus the ROI that you can get from internal resources focused on marketing is night and day difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's a different mentality. There's a lot of different mentality of like, how do I pump money into marketing to get more awareness and more leads and more purchases? And so what you're saying is ROI is better spent in customer care. We're not saying the marketing is not important. We're not saying that at all. But what we're saying is that there is a perception gap of if I'm going to invest money, because guess what? Marketing is one of the largest overhead costs of a business, as well as the contact center and customer care. But the mentality on marketing is, oh, we spend more there, we get more. Where the mentality in customer care is we need to spend less. And you're saying we need to change, we need to shift the balance there. Is that a good takeaway?
So understanding all departments and knowing that each department for itself has this perception of, if I was not doing the job, then there would be no product, no customer, no nothing. So of course, marketing says if we don't advertise the product and create awareness of the product, then why would we need service? While buying says if we don't buy the product in the first place, there's no need to have a service entity. Logistics said if we don't make sure there's stock and accessibility, then there's no point in continuing the business. And there are developers and IT saying, if we don't provide the option to interact and expose the product or the service to the market, there's no business. And CRM and data and analytics say, if we don't understand the customer journey and the behavior and predict data on it, then there's no point to scale a business. And where I come from is, if we are not there to serve your customers, to explain and respond to questions, to solve issues, to serve them and collect their feedback in order for you to improve your marketing, to improve your product, to understand why the customer purchased this here, not somewhere else, then there's no point in continue to grow the business. So each department claims to be the most important one. But as I'm coming from customer service, I think it's wrong to not invest in this department. Understanding that all of the others have their meaning and their importance to a business. But I think if you are not addressing the customer and you're not having a very, very unique product or service to offer, then your customers are most likely to go somewhere else and purchase there.
Yeah,
So
every department is like it's a part of the body. Obviously you need legs to get to where you want to go. You need a mouth to help communicate. And you need a brain to help tell all the departments, hey, here's how you could help out more. Here's how you could become even more important to our body and what we're doing. So I feel like the contact center is a bit like the brain that is bringing the feedback from the customer, because the customer in any company is the highest authority. So how do we help make the rest of the body, the functioning of the company, that much more important and operate that much more effectively? So I'm with you. Now, you said something before we started recording in a previous conversation that we had that I thought was just fantastic the way you're thinking about this. And you're thinking more and more in changing the agents that are the collection, the interface point with the clients and the customers. You're making them more like your customers so that they have more empathy, they have more understanding. The customer feels like you're one of us. Tell us a little bit about your thinking, making agents more like your ICP, your ideal customer profile.
I'm happy to. First of all, to your first point, I think if you listen to the customer service department, they are the ones who can pretty accurately tell you what the customer want, what is working well, what is to be improved. So first of all, creating that room to provide these feedback loops, to go back to the department and interact and have these actual body parts connected is central and something I'm trying to implement in wherever company I'm working in, and currently explore this at Sonova, that the marketing department and the customer service department need to interact because it can be so fruitful both ways to get a better understanding and improve from there. On your question on having a close customer service agent type to your customer audience is what I said in the beginning. It makes so much sense to have an understanding of the product the customer purchases or you provide or the service. And if you bring in talents that are experienced from previous jobs or from their personal experience, I think that can make a huge difference. So let me give you an example of that. Currently, part of the job of an agent at Sonova is the care aspect. So, do they have a question? Do they need some general information? Is there something wrong with the hearing aid? They have a question on the whole process of identifying they have a significant hearing loss. They do a screening and they start this journey of getting a hearing aid at the end of the day, or they have one and it needs to be adjusted, improved. They need a new aid. So everything related to that is service, is care. And then you have this part where it's the actual conversion, where you have someone coming in, maybe being aware of having an issue already. Maybe they are at a stage of their journey where they need a little bit more support. And who could provide that better? Who could serve a customer more that has experienced these things on their own? And if you connect this experience, this empathy, this personal story with someone on the other end who is maybe struggling, who is maybe not 60, 80, whatever age you might expect someone to experience this, but way earlier in their life, who really has a hard time and connects everything they know about hearing aid, about these big machines you can see and connected to the ear, and is not aware of how seamlessly this can be introduced into their daily life. You might have someone and want to have someone to take this customer by the hand, who is not starting the conversation by, this is a sales call, good morning, this is what you need, please purchase this product, these are the arguments and the reason why, this is the objection handling, but come in with an approach of, I'm here to serve. It's you on your journey, and I'm just here to provide you any information you need, anything that is holding you back from improving your life from tomorrow on. So I think rather than saying, okay, will you come tomorrow to the hearing listening appointment or will you do it next week? But more with an approach of, what do you need? What is holding you back from taking this appointment and maybe improving your life from next week on? What else do you need? Is it information? Is it some more background? Is it a finance thing? Do you need more information on the process? Do you need more information on the device itself? So taking the customer there and being then able as an agent to say, years back when I went through this on my own, when I did this journey, how it started at the beginning, how people told me and my surroundings, well, you are really having a hearing loss, how my wife, my husband, my children, whoever brought the attention that there is something. I remember back how it was. And I can tell you it's not a big deal. And in the stores, and takes you through this journey from personal reference and experience. It can be a totally different story and a totally different connection and bonding. Just as I said previously, in a job where you have someone purchasing the 30th bag for this year, you want to have somebody there understanding that you can never have too many bags or shoes or whatever it is, leggings, and having this connection. And this is something I think you can only train to a certain level, to a certain degree. When you bring in agents that are very close to the experience of your target group, of your audience, of your customers, you can serve and provide an empathy you cannot buy. So this is something that I've experienced, makes a whole lot of difference.
I talk to a lot of folks in customer experience and through this podcast, and it is the very first time that anybody has talked about, let's get somebody who's like who we're selling to actually be in our contact centers. It makes perfect sense. It's like that we just talked about and what we all have known forever, word of mouth from our peers, from our friends, from our family. If this is a peer that I'm talking to, I'm going to trust them to the nth degree more. And I'm going to feel like I'm not being sold to, but I'm being consulted from real world experiences. I think that's brilliant. You also talk about establishing a career path for your agents and making sure that they understand how they're supported and that this isn't just I'm young and I need some money and here's a entry level kind of a position, but there's actually a really fantastic career that I could take. What's your thinking on this?
So I think that providing and learning, growing, and development path is relevant for every job and every role. People want to explore, they want to develop, they want to continue as a learner. And I think providing that, to your point, also to the agent role, which for some people is something they do while they study, or as we say, in between two jobs, especially in Europe, there is only a certain amount of people who really say, I want to be a call center agent for life. And if they do, of course, they want to progress in their career within that job. And you want to make sure to attract individuals who stay with you and don't leave you after 3 months, because this is a high challenge in the customer service entity or general call center environment, that you have a high attrition. And then you need to put in all the efforts into training and into branding your agents to be at this place of having these valuable conversations with your customers. So making sure that you provide them with everything they need to do a service that is both satisfying for the customer and then from there to the agent. It's so underestimated what a feedback from a customer can do to an agent if they know that they've made their day, that they changed something important, that they were able to find a solution for an issue they had. It's like love language of an agent. If they care for their job, this is what they need. And in order to keep them motivated, I think you need to provide them with access to the right learning, to the right knowledge. There's soft skills such as communication, there's hard skills, the tool on the product. And if you equip your agents with everything they need and provide them with tools that make their life easier and automates repetitive things they use on a daily basis over and over again, and then focus on allowing them to build a relationship with your customer, of bringing in this empathized, customized calls, not holding them too tight to a strict, but allow them to customize things, use their own experience. I think you're halfway there. And for the rest, I think it's important to understand the role and the motivation of the agent. There are people telling you, I'm in for half a year, it's in between two jobs, just equip me with everything I need to do my job, to get my bonus, to meet my numbers, fine. And then you have those that plan to stay longer, and that you feel if you keep those motivated and create a happy environment for them, a place where they can customize to a certain degree, be their own, have fun at work, and have a nice atmosphere, those are the ones you need to invest. You need to make sure there is a path for learning and development. So again, continuous learning. It's not just here's your onboarding, this is the skills you need to have, this is the handbook, and then leave it there. But continue to make sure they have the knowledge, they have the tools, they have all the updates on the products, on the campaigns, on everything they need, and then allow them to develop within the path of an agent. So starting as an agent doesn't mean you have to be in this role forever. There is also in the customer service environment opportunity to grow and develop. There is a need for trainers. There is a need to senior agents. There is a need for team leads. And I think laying that out clearly and explaining in a very transparent way what it needs to reach the next part in their career. This can be a tier setup. This can be a skill matrix, however you want to implement it. But laying out what it needs, what knowledge, what trainings to complete, how many conversations to have, what numbers to achieve in order to move into the next bracket in their career is essential to have a dedicated team that is motivated to continue to grow and develop. Of course, again, you need to have the resources. You need to have trainers. You need to have someone to provide the feedback, to do the quality assurance, quality management task, to have feedback sessions and coaching. You have to have the tools, a learning management system where you can document, where you can provide e-learning courses that have a way of providing content in a very fun and gamified way. And you have opportunities where you allow your agents to receive the feedback from the customers. So something that I think is very underestimated is things as customer surveys, customer satisfaction scores, something where you can let your agents know how good they're doing, not just on internal measurements, but from the voice of the customer. It makes a whole difference to them.
I love that. And I love something that I'd love to get your opinion on more, because the idea of focusing on those agents that want to stay, that want to have a career path, that are looking at this as an in and out kind of a transition, because it takes a lot to train and it takes a lot for them to get up to speed and be operating. And so focusing on those that want to stay longer and make a career out of this, that can be difficult because of the perceptions of the trade and everything. But you talked also about there's a mentality and then therefore a desired balance of working with outside like BPO partners, where in other places they can provide excellent agents, but where the culture accepts contact support agents, that kind of a role as a career, as something they feed their families with, as something that they're going to be very serious about and very good about. Tell me a little bit about that balance and what you meant by that.
First of all, as I said, it's important to know your audience. Who are your customers? Where are they located? And what kind of service do you want to provide? And then from there, you know which market you serve, which languages you need to cover, and what are the channels. Huge fan of outsourcing. So my experience with outsourcing partner is just excellent. It helps you to scale, to ramp up and down, be more flexible, and usually they are the one bringing in the expertise, because what you do for one company, for one product, for one audience, they have plenty of customers with several different needs and with similar challenges. So they can provide you with resources and support and feedback that you usually in-house until a certain size are not able to do on your own. So bringing in a partner might be a strategic decision to be more flexible and have more opportunity to growth. But usually back to this cost point, it's also usually cheaper to outsource, especially if you're operating in markets that have a lower income and you have lower prices for agents near shore or even offshore. And also here, the flexibility with service hours, if you work in a 24/7 environment, that usually with the market regulation and everything, agents that you have in-house are maybe not that much looking forward to because they have other jobs, they have other obligations, they are studying or doing something else. And there it might absolutely make sense to bring in a partner. When you know your audience and the languages and you decided to go with a specific partner, they usually also can support you with learning management system, quality assurance, quality management. They have very good equipped trainers and the resources that you in-house need to build, and that costs money. So it is an investment that is absolutely necessary to make. The question is just, do you want to share this and bring in an expertise partner, or you want to build this in-house? Regardless, the investment to bring in good trainers, to bring in good e-learning tools, and to bring the resources to your agents is absolutely essential. And when you then know who your audience is and what kind of service you can outsource and what you want to keep in-house, then from there you can decide what your agent profile looks like. The best mix is always the best, if I can say any reference there. And the more variety you have, the more successful your team will be, because one listens to the other and there's best practice sharing. At the end of the day, everyone picks up something from someone else, and then you have your master agent. But it might be strategically wise to have someone similar to your product or to your customer audience. From my experience, that is absolutely something very valuable.
I know we could talk all day because there's so much more. But what I wanted to do, we've covered a lot of territory already. If in, say, 30 seconds or so, if there was one takeaway that you wanted people to have from this podcast, what would that be?
I think the customer service entity is dealing with the most valuable asset of a company, its customers. So investing in this department is essential to get the most valuable feedback from your first row to the customer. As I said, it's the ear and the eye. And if you make use of that, and if you value that, and if you invest in it, then you get so much out and back to your customer that I think makes the whole difference for a successful company.
Sophie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this and absolutely unique points of view from how we should be approaching our board and our C-suite to invest in us and giving it a kind of a juxtaposition versus other departments that we know people have their mindset, I need to be investing, and how we make every department more important and how we help grow the business and looking at our agents and maybe making them more like our customers and giving that more empathy and working with outside partners and balancing best practices and getting a mix and agents that are very invested in being an agent in their career. So much, so good, but I know people are going to have questions. And would it be appropriate if there were questions that came in that we provided your link to provide maybe your LinkedIn profile that people could get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Pleasure. As you can see and heard, this is a topic I'm very passionate about, and I would love to continue the discussion, exchange experiences, and continue the conversations from there. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.